So that's a net zero home. Now I want to talk about true net zero homes. So a true net zero home not only produces its own energy, but it also produces its own food. And if you have an EV charger and you drive an electric vehicle, it can also produce your transportation for you. So this would be a true net zero home. And by being built, it also removes plastic waste from ending up in the landfill. So this is a house built by a company called JD Composites. This is their material right here. This material is PET plastic foam, and it's sourced from plastic bottles. So plastic bottles that only about 4% of them actually get recycled. The rest of them end up in landfills all over the place. And this is what this foam is here. JD Composites is a company that I've done some work with recently, and they have a patent on this schedule, this laminate schedule here that's on either side of this foam. And so they make these structural panels that are cheaper than wood, they are stronger than wood, they are lighter than wood, and for a 3-inch wall, they have an R value of about R30, which is very, very good. Overall, it's a better building material, more superior than the way we do this, than the way we build today. And every time they build a house, it removes 600,000 recycled plastic bottles from circulation. And their houses are beautiful. So this is another one of those better in every single measurable ways things. Like a heat pump is just better. It's cheaper, it's better heat, it's more consistent, and you get air conditioning. Well, this is another one of those things. It's just better, it's cheaper, it's stronger, and it removes 600,000 recycled plastic bottles from circulation. It's just better all the way around. This is a true net zero house. You put solar panels on this and an EV charger in the garage, and away you go. You want to extend that thought process out a little bit more to include aquaponics food production if you really want a true net zero house. So your house operates for free, it powers your car, and now it can power pumps and equipment to grow food for you. So this is a very simple aquaponics setup here. In this reservoir here you have fish, like you can have trout, for example, freshwater fish. What they do is they eat, if you really want to do it properly, you feed them worms from your yard or a worm farm that you create. The fish eat the worms and they reproduce and they excrete here. You pump the water that they're using to live in through your hydroponic system here where you're growing the food. The food, as it grows, it actually cleans the water, so you don't need a filtration system. These plants act as the filtration system, and the plants grow much, much faster than they do in soil. I believe there's about 6 harvests per year, plus the fish grow and reproduce. So you do have to cull the fish as well. You have to harvest the fish to keep the system balanced. But these systems will grow like wildfire. They'll grow a ton of food for you. And if it's included in the electrical demand to run the pumps, then it's also free. If you've included the pumps, the electrical demand of the pumps to run this system in your solar array, then it's also free to do so. So you can build a house now. We have the technology, and I can show you how to do it, actually, and I can provide it for you already to have a house that produces its own energy, powers your car, and feeds you, and costs you nothing. That's a true net zero home. So we have your house, plus your solar, plus free food, minus 600,000 plastic bottles. And I didn't even add the EV here, but if you have an electric vehicle, add that in there too. And that equals a negative impact house. So it's better than net zero. It's better than passive. It's actually negative environmental impact housing. And like I said, I'm doing some work already with JD Composites to be able to offer these types of houses to people. So you can reach out to me if you want more information, if you would like a house like that. So why don't we build better than net zero? So what's the problem here? It seems like a pretty good idea, but we have really poor governmental oversight in this realm. You know, we have the Greta Thunberg, and we have the climate marches and all this stuff, but we really don't have the proper government oversight to make the climate crisis a real, actionable thing. There's a few things that you could actually you could actually, if you could get them done in Parliament, would actually help the situation quite a bit. But I doubt you'll see them happen because of the constraints of the monetary system. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. The first one is all interconnection contracts should be indefinite terms. So right now, if you put solar panels on your roof, they'll give you a 1-to-1 contract for 25 years to produce solar, and they'll pay you what it costs you to buy power. They'll pay you the same amount, 1-to-1. It's a 1-to-1 credit system, and they'll lock that contract in for you for 25 years. I don't know what happens after 25 years, but the contract should be indefinite. I don't know why they're allowed to cut you off after 25 years. It should just be, if you're producing power, yes, we'd like you to continue to do that indefinitely, and we're going to pay you what it costs you. All internet contracts should be 1-to-1. So Nova Scotia actually has one of the best interconnection net metering contracts in North America. We actually pay 1-to-1. It's a 1-to-1 credit system. So I give you an apple in the morning, you give me an apple in the evening. And it's one of the best in North America because in places like California, it's like 1/3 to 1. Some of them are like 1/16 to 1. So the incentive isn't really there to fully net zero your house. It would cost you too much to do it. All interconnection contracts should allow for overproduction. Why do we do that? Why do we say that you can only put a solar array on your roof if you're going to produce just enough power for your house? If you have a big piece of land and you want to produce power for your neighbors' houses too, why can't you do that? We cut people off, and it makes no sense. We're either in a climate crisis or we're not. And we're acting as if we're not when we put limitations on homeowners that have the money, that want to be able to overproduce. And yeah, they want to make a little money, but they also want to knock out the carbon footprints of their two neighbors on the other side of them. We should allow them to do that. Arrays should be designed and commissioned and by certified personnel. So this is a whole other story. I could probably talk for an hour on that one. But solar arrays are designed by all kinds of different people. And it comes down to the electrician at the end of the day who certifies the array and commissions and takes responsibility for that array. And a lot of times you have situations where arrays are being commissioned that really I don't know if the electrician is fully aware that he's taken responsibility for this direct current power plant that he's wired into someone's house for the next 25 years. So there needs to be some changes there. Auto manufacturers should allow backfeeding. So if you buy a electric vehicle right now, you can charge it at your house, but you can't charge your house with your electric vehicle. It will void your warranty on your electric vehicle, and because they don't want their batteries cycling too many times, because it'll affect the lifespan of the battery. But why do we have two things happen at the same time? Why do we have you can go to buy batteries for your house, but you can also buy a car that has a battery already in it? That should be, that seems pretty simple to me, that battery that's in your car that drives your car should also be able to power your house at nighttime, if you want to do that, right? It seems like a one-stop shop for me. But right now, auto manufacturers don't allow backfeeding, and that could be changed with legislation. We could legislate them that you have to allow them to backfeed under the house. Rebate incentives for achieving beyond net zero standard, they don't exist. Basically, they'll give you right now I think it's $6,000 they'll give you to put an array on your roof, but that's about it. And if you want to overproduce, they don't give you anything. Really, like I said before, are we in a climate crisis or not? Because if we are, and we know people that have the money and they want to produce electricity and they want to do it cleanly, we should be incentivizing them to do that. Land development strategy should enforce beyond net zero construction. So in the future, hopefully, there'll be some subdivisions or cul-de-sacs or whatever, where it's mandated that if you're going to build on this development, your homes have to be built to a net zero standard. So we want to house, let's say, 500 people here, but we want them to have a zero environmental impact when they do it. So that's stuff that can all happen with legislation as well. Hold the builders accountable to build to a net zero standard. And all new bid packages for development should spec total enclosure beyond net zero as an industry standard. So when we build new buildings, hospitals, schools, office buildings, they should all be built so they have zero environmental impact. The technology is available. All that this would require is legislators to go in and say, no, you can't build here. We won't approve a building here unless it's built to this standard, and the industry will shift.